Are you ready to witness a story that defies all odds? A tale of triumph over adversity, the birth of an impactful business, and the unyielding power of spreading a message that matters. Today, we have a remarkable guest whose story embodies resilience, transformation, and the unwavering pursuit of one's dreams. She's a shining example of how the human spirit can triumph over adversity, from overcoming childhood challenges to battling addiction and incarceration, and now channeling her strength into empowering others to rise above from their own obstacles. Her newly established business and YouTube channel is a testament to her commitment to community and growth. She's dedicated to helping previously incarcerated individuals reintegrate back into society, also overcome addiction, and reach new heights of success. In our conversation today, we'll dive deep into her personal journey, the pivotal moments that sparked her entrepreneurial spirit, and the invaluable lessons that she's learned along the way, which will also inspire you too in your own journey, especially if you're someone just starting out. I'm so certain that her story will resonate deeply with everyone who listens, whether you're just starting out or just seeking inspiration to take the next big step in your life. So without further ado, let's welcome Nicole. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so my first question for you is, can you share a little bit of background and your challenges that you've overcome to get to where you are today?
Yes, I can. Well, originally I'm from Boston, and I grew up in Dorchester, and our neighborhood was kids outside playing, and we had a lot of fun playing kick the can and hide and go seek. And I believe that my mother did the best that she could with the information that she had in raising us with manners and tradition and about the importance of family. And there's sometimes, where there's people lurking, so to speak, that are not always who they say they are, or wolves in sheep's clothing, so to speak. And I experienced some traumatic experiences growing up, and I think that that trauma kind of shaped, kind of like my belief system, lowered my inhibitions, and made things that would not normally be morally acceptable for me. And because I had been introduced to adult activities so early on, I found that in order to take my power back, I started being the one to solicit men for fair exchange, monetary gain, if it was nothing else but some penny candy for me and my friends. But it was that kind of started things off for me. And once I came out to California, I don't know, it was like I had this neon sign that says exploit me. And so willingly, I engaged in a lot of exploitation, a lot of, pimping and pandering and being that bottom one and so forth. And I used to say I was turned on, not turned out, but all in all, it was the same. Low self-esteem, low self-worth. I had quit school in the 8th grade, so I didn't have any education. And just kind of, continued on. And I got introduced to drugs really early. By the time I was 16, at the time in San Francisco, it was all about freebasing. And it just was a culture of its own that I really got swept up in. And I alienated myself from my family. And so after a while, the streets and the drugs and the activities became my highlight of the day, the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. Really participating in some incomprehensible, demoralizing activities. In the end, for me, I gave birth to my first child, addicted to crack cocaine. And that experience, I would say that any substance that can be found in our communities that would separate the love a mother would have for her unborn child to want to protect it, I just couldn't stop. And I remember going into labor in some of the activities I was participating in at the time when I went into labor with my first child. The importance was not of me going to have this baby or going to labor, and it wasn't one of those baby shower type babies. And the guy that I was pregnant by, and he banned me from the neighborhood that I was in. Of course, my family was able to come and get my child, and I think that was one of the most loving things that I could do for my firstborn child, is to allow my family to raise her, because I was in absolutely no condition to raise a child. And again, continuing to perpetuate that cycle of going to jail, getting out, and that evolving door that sustained me for a period of time. I can remember getting clean when I found out I was pregnant with my second child. And oh my goodness, it was like I wanted to have this baby for all the wrong reasons. And then when she was born with multiple multi-system impacted birth defect, and yeah, it really infected me because having this baby to kind of fix me, so to speak, and when she was born, I was able to stay clean for a couple of months, but I wasn't doing any work on myself. I wasn't doing any internal work on my self-esteem and my self-worth. And then having a baby with birth defects even compounded even more, even further on my self-esteem. And I feel very guilty and very shameful. I mean, even though the doctors said that there were women who have had children with this birth defect who've never used any drugs in their life, I didn't hear that. All I heard was saying that my baby would be in need of someone for whatever life that she would have. In fact, they told me she wouldn't live to be 2. And again, I was young and I was influenced by a lot of different subcultures. That subculture of working in massage parlors and out on the corner in Union Square in San Francisco. And would it be embarrassing when a family member would see me? But after a while, my belief system was like, well, you ain't paying my bills, so these bills got to get paid, so to speak. And I had that God-fearing mother that prayed for me night and day. And she unexpectedly passed away when I was about 24 years old. And I was just lost. I had been alienated from my family. So even at my mom's funeral, I was so loaded that I couldn't even cry at her funeral. I thank God I've been able to process some things, heal, forgive myself, and forgive others for things that happened to me. And yes, I don't know if I'm going too far with the question.
No, that's good. I'm curious, Nicole, what was the turning point for you? Like, did you have someone there to guide you, to help you overcome those challenges? And what helped you find that strength to actually create that positive change in your life?
After my mom passed away, both my kids were in the system. I really, went like on you would call it like a suicide mission, where I really didn't care. I didn't care the activities I was participating in. I didn't care the environments that I continued to place myself in where my life was in jeopardy many times. I mean, I've experienced sexual assault in my life so frequently that you learn to detach, you learn to disassociate. And I went to prison. Judge just got tired of seeing me for 60, 90 days, the back and forth vicious cycle that I continue going. Because I can tell you that in the institution, I was much freer. My spirit was much freer being locked up than when I was on the streets. Created a prison for myself, like that ball and chain, and I would be kind of stuck in 4-block radius and could not see outside that of using drugs and all that came along with that. And I got sentenced to 5 years in state prison, my first prison term. I think back to that, how we get demoralized down to just a CDC number. And, but I found that I was pregnant again when I went to prison. And this was a good opportunity for me to, my baby would definitely be born in a healthier condition than had I been on the streets, given my track record with my first 2 children. And my mom was gone, and I was really, really suicidal. I really did not want to bring another child into this world, and I really, really get on my knees and pray. And I say this, and it may sound cliche, but it is spiritual in nature for me, that I heard my mom's voice tell me that I needed, and I did. I got the help that I needed while I was in the institution. I mean, I went to group, I started learning about addiction. I started learning about trauma and how it affected me. And I started learning how utilizing drugs and all that came along with that started to become part of my character. Like it took a long time for me not to look at people as dollar signs, so to speak, or how there's going to be some sort of exchange for monetary gain. And so when I got out of prison, and again, I was so scared to get out. I really was. But I got introduced to this program called the LINK program while I was in custody, and who introduced me to a family that was willing to come and get my son. I gave birth to my first son. And, and I vowed to him. I says, just his little face, I was only able to hold him for a certain period of hours, but he just had this look on his face. And I finally experienced looking into one of my children's eyes and having that instant maternal love, that instant, like, I can do it for him if I can't do it for myself. When I got out, I went straight into a program. And one of the things that I think is so important today is that day one, especially if you've been going through this downward spiral for a long period of time, that day one of getting out of custody is one of the most important days, and having that support and somebody there to meet you. And so I really had to make sure that things were planned for me the day that I got out. And I went into a program which was actually a homeless shelter for people on parole at the time. I was able to just plug into the services that were available to me. Of course, there was no real buy-in for me at first, except that I just didn't want to live the way I was living before. And I met this really little old lady who didn't look like me. You can tell she hadn't lived the same life that I had lived, but I heard her tell her story, so to speak. And she talked about just the internal pain that we continue to internalize, and that guilt and that shame. And some of that guilt and shame didn't even belong to me. What had been happening to me when I was growing up, I took on a lot of responsibility, but I had no choice. I was not able to make a conscious choice. And so learning how to forgive myself for things that didn't belong to me. And so,
Who was that woman and what did she do for you?
so Martha Stein was the director of the program, and the program was called Milestone. And when I tell you that I had to learn like from scratch, because I didn't know how to live out in society without getting high, without hustling, without all that went along with the hustle. And so learning how to, some of the skills I did learn while I was in prison, getting up at a certain time. And when you in there with some lifers, and they will tell you how you're going to behave in that room, and you comply, because a lot of them are not going home. And if you got a date, you would want to comply. But Martha taught me how to regulate my emotions. She taught me how I didn't have to give in to the desire to get high, even if my brain told me so. And so, having that support and having someone, she believed in me way more than I believed in myself. She saw something in me and loved on me and helped me learn to like myself, because I didn't even like myself, only because the life that I was living was not conducive to the way that my mom raised us to be. None of my brothers and sisters were strung out on dope and in the streets and going back and forth to jail like I was. And so I was ashamed of my behavior, and I was ashamed of what I had become.
Wow, so you went through a lot of challenges and obstacles in your life. That turning point for you was when you met Martha. She was a guide for you. Talk to us about the success that you experienced after that.
Well, I'm one of those folks that actually use the system for help. So I was on parole, paid for me to be in that program. So I utilized that. They paid for me to get educational cognitive therapy type classes. They paid for my therapy. So I did everything that was suggested of me. Folks who I felt knew better than I did at the time, I just took direction, and good, orderly direction at that. I was surrounded in the atmosphere of recovery. I was surrounded by support, and there were other folks who, we had so many more similarities than we did differences, that we created a community within Milestones. And then, becoming an alumni of the program, coming back to help other folks that, were getting out. And I became the sheriff department kind of like poster girl, so to speak. And I started believing in myself, and I started doing esteemable things to raise my esteem. I started to work on getting my son back and work on being in my children's two daughters' lives who my family was raising. It wasn't easy. And when I look back, I believe that all of the things that I've experienced in my life, character building experiences, and I've been able to see that through my process.
Wow, so you went from all of that. You got your degrees at university. You not only are a great mom, but a great grandma as well. You have grandchildren as well. That's huge. Your life is on track. You love the life you live. Also, you just started an online business and a YouTube channel, and you also do paid in-person workshops, which is really great. So I'm curious, what made you decide to take that leap into entrepreneurship and now sharing your powerful message through YouTube?
Well, I think that the main thing was that I was always told that we can't keep what we have unless we give it away. What somebody gave to me freely, giving away to someone else is paying it forward, right? And so I was loved on until I could love myself. So being that person that can be there for someone else in their time of need and to let them know that they're not alone. Again, I did not have any formal education from school, or I never saw the inside of high school. And so when I decided to go back to school and pursue an education, I went to City College, and just getting engulfed in that educational atmosphere, there was another really, really inspiring thing for me, because each A that I got pushed me on to take the next semester. And I left City College with 7 certifications, and they really encouraged me to go forward. I got a bachelor's degree in business management at University of Phoenix, and, living a life that I never dreamed possible. And it was because that interaction that I had with Martha, where somebody listened to me, somebody gave my pain a voice, and somebody helped me to realize how worthy I was. I was worthy of an education. I was worthy of being a mother. I was worthy, being a grandmother today. And so I am forever grateful. And when I decided to get a clinical master's degree, again, I was defying all the odds. I was pushing past all my limitations. I was parenting myself every time the imposter syndrome showed up. I did the work because I wanted to be better. I wanted to be better in me today than I was yesterday. And that was the only thing that I compared myself to, is myself the day before. And I just didn't want to stop. And so I believe that my story is not ordinary. It's extraordinary. And so I believe that inviting someone to come in and get a little piece of me, and allow me to plant that seed where folks are on their stage of change, and assist them in making positive change towards going in for future. And, starting my own business, I have to be honest, Ari, and I'm not trying to toot your horn, but I saw one of your YouTube videos, and the authenticity that, shared with your audience, and your ability to speak directly to me through the screen really resonated with me. And I know that I have more years behind me than I have in front of me, but I just couldn't imagine my life not giving to others the information that they need to be as awesome as they can be, because I work every day to be as awesome as I can be, and my cheerleaders are my kids, and I do have 10 grandchildren, and they are the love of my life. In fact, I was thinking about the Labor Day weekend, and all I can think about is what I could think to do as a family with my grandkids and their parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Nicole, for sharing that about, how you came across my YouTube video. And for a lot of people listening in the audience, a lot of them are hesitant to invest in something like mentorship or even ask for free help. And so can you share a little bit more about how mentorship has helped you, particularly with entrepreneurship, getting this online business up and running, the YouTube channel, all of it?
Yeah, definitely. I have tapped in with some what we call heavy hitters, such as yourself, Daishan Washington, Madvi, just a few folks that have just really invested their time in me, and I've invested my time with them. I think that my best investment is in myself. And I think that a person wanting to live a better life, wanting to do things differently, we've got to do something we've never done in order to get something we've never had. And so the community that develops between me and someone who wants to work with me, is that there's really nothing anyone can say that they've done or that they've participated in that I would pass judgment on. It's a nurturing relationship where it's all about the healing process. It's all about how can I help you move past the next barrier? Because every time we knock a barrier down, there's one that's right behind it, right? And having that perseverance and that resilience that, to get over that next hurdle is sometimes with somebody holding your hand can be helpful. And someone did it for me. I have the capacity to give it to someone else. I'm fun to be around. So, anyone sitting with me, we would definitely have a really healing journey. And so I hope that is enough to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And it creates such a, I like to see like a domino effect. Like Nicole, like I'm helping you with your business, your YouTube channel, and you go on to help others. So it's such a domino effect. And then they go on to help their families and it spreads. And so my question for you is, can you give the audience an example of how you've impacted someone, let's say in a workshop, so that they can really see how it is that you help previously incarcerated individuals?
Yeah, so when I was getting my clinical hours, my practicum hours for my master's degree, I worked in an alternative sentencing program for men who had gotten out from doing significant prison time. Some of them getting out and learning how to navigate through the system of ID, social security card, and being able to go to the parole department and, work with the parole department so that you get your needs met from them. Having someone to advocate for you, having someone who knows the system, knows the services. And if I don't know the services, I'll find out the services for you. And just really assessing where the person is at on their stage in their journey, on their stage of change, and really look into what foundation can we create for them. I think that is really important, is creating a foundation, getting a support network, getting folks who, case managers or social workers, whatever, connections that a person needs so that they can sustain living a life to help end their recidivism is something that I do very well. And I have some folks who are housed in their own place. They not only went and got a job, but they got a career because they went to a trade school where, Department of Rehabilitation paid for it. A lot of folks don't know where the money is at, where they can get, money for education and training incarcerated. And so knowing how that system works, I think is the key to helping someone stabilize themselves. And, it's for folks who want more out of life than just solely existing, just wanting to thrive in their lives and move forward in a positive direction.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt that what you do is incredibly inspiring, that it actually helps people to end their recidivism. So my question for you is, because you're doing that through your workshops, your online business, and now through your YouTube channel. And so this is for the audience listening. How did you go about tackling those natural fears and doubts that arose when deciding to pursue this journey to actually, hit the start button? And what advice would you have for those who, they want to pursue this to create some change that they wish to see in the world, but they're just, struggling with fear and uncertainty?
Just stepping out on faith and trusting the process, allowing people to love on you until you can learn to love on yourself, and just trusting the process. Like, just do it and allow somebody to hold your hand in the process. And it's almost like learning to walk. You got to crawl before you walk, right? And you fall down a little bit and you get back up. And this process of life can be difficult for someone, but if you have somebody by your side like myself, I can help guide you across that bridge to freedom. And sometimes that freedom is not necessarily internal. So getting some freedom, some identity back, wanting to live and thrive and be productive in your life, and I can help guide you through that.
Beautiful, Nicole. So your story is incredibly inspiring. I thank you so much for sharing it. Do you have any last final messages for the people listening? Any final takeaways?
I have come through many, many hard trials and looked at the devil in the face, I believe. And I have been able to come back from the lowest of the lows. And I believe that if you can see it, you can change it. And if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And so with that being said, is that I'm here. I am certified as a drug and alcohol counselor. I'm certified as an HIV case manager. I'm certified in several different areas. So I don't just come from my life experience. I have, 20 plus years of working in the field, working with folks, as well as my education, my personal experience. So I think that I'm equipped, but just reach out, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation and then let's map it out of what it looks like for you, right? Because you are the master of your life. And so I'm just here to help guide you, just here to help put that pep in your step, so to speak. And, I believe in you until, you can see what I see in you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nicole. So as we come to the end of this incredible conversation with Nicole, I hope you've been just as moved and motivated as I have by her journey and her resilience. And just you can see from this interview that her story really exemplifies the power of embracing challenges, harnessing personal growth, and really transforming adversity into a force for positive change. And if you've been touched by Nicole's story and her mission, then I really encourage you to take action today. You can find more information and resources over on her website and over on her YouTube channel, where you will discover more ways to get involved and actually support her impactful work. And lastly, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button on my channel and over on Nicole's so that you can stay connected with our mission and with our purpose. We're really dedicated to bringing more inspiring stories, more actionable tips, and also conversations that fuel your passion and your success. So thank you once again, Nicole, for sharing your incredible journey with us. And to all of you watching, remember that your story is waiting to be written. So take that leap, believe in yourself, and let's create a future full of purpose and achievement. Until next time, everyone.